This is SLP episode 313. With the World Cup now officially postponed, it's another year to wait to hopefully erase the 2013 semi-heartache that we're still not over. But Sinfield is back in the rundown thanks to his son, and Fev make no sense in a busy news week. Your fan views give us insight and balance in a busy Super League week, and we make guesses for what might be a full round of games ahead, fingers crossed. So strap in, it's SLP time. Hello listeners, this is episode 313 of the Super League pod. We're back again on a random night of the week, or morning when you listen to it. Alan, it really feels like a Monday for me because I've been off work the first 3 days of the week, but then was in work today, and then I'm recording an episode of the podcast. I'm really going to have to remind myself that I'm going to a game of Rugby League tomorrow night.
I have no idea what day it is. I went to work on a different day of the week this week. I didn't work today. I've had, everything's just been all over the place. So we're both in the same boat. So if we say today's Monday/Tuesday/Wednesday, then just forgive us, please.
And it's August. There's bound to be some sort of Super League game on that we didn't even realise was on. Because that's the way it's going to be for the next month.
It feels like it, yeah.
But at least this week it looks like we might be getting the games on, which is one big positive. Because at time of recording, none have been cancelled yet for this weekend, but we've got time for that.
Yeah, some of them don't have until tomorrow. There's loads of time.
Do you want to tell everyone about our sponsor?
Yeah, so one thing you can rely on. So this episode is sponsored by Rob's Toy Shop. You can find a wide range of toys, gifts, Rugby League birthday cards and more at Rob's Toy Shop on eBay. Visit stores.ebay.co.uk/Rob's Toy Shop. And on any orders over £5, you can earn 5% cash back. And 1% of your order value will go into the SLP coffers if you put SLP discount in at checkout.
Yeah, and now that summer's obviously over with all this rain that's started to appear, but the kids are still off school. Go and check out if there's any toys and games that you can play with the kids over the summer holidays over on Rob's Toy Shop. What we've got coming up today then, the ongoing World Cup saga has its, I guess, end of chapter rubber stamp put on it today, so we'll talk about that. There's quite a bit of other news actually to go through. It's been a busy week news-wise, especially in and around the Super League in particular, so lots for us to talk about there. Then we had, what was it, 5 games of Super League, so it's been building up. We've gone to 5 this week, maybe 6 next week. That'll be quite exciting. We'll recap all the other results that me and Rob didn't cover last weekend because most of them hadn't happened yet. So we'll cover off all of those and then make our guesses for the matches that are probably some of which might be played by the time you you listen to this. But yeah, that's what we've got coming up. But I want to start with a shout out this week. It's a shout out that I mentioned as my what's coming up last week on last week's show. But Tim and Heather got married this week, so massive shout out to those two as they embark on their married lives together and their honeymoon, which they're off now touring a bit of the north and a bit of Scotland. I mean, they could have brought the wedding up here and then I wouldn't have had to.
It's just inconsiderate, isn't it?
No. It was great to find out a little bit more about Tim, the wedding, the stories that he might not share. So they had a lot of pictures up around the room where the wedding reception was of Tim and Heather, and both of them when they were young. A lot of the ones with Tim when he was young featured Tim's sister, who is an absolute delight, by the way. I really enjoyed talking to her, mostly because I felt she needed to get her revenge on any embarrassing pictures that she might have been included in by telling us about stuff that was slightly embarrassing about Tim that he hadn't featured in any of the pictures. So if you can imagine it, Tim with his eyebrow pierced, that came up. Tim's sort of putting his toe into the world of emo and goth with a bit of eyeliner that came up. But yeah, it was lovely to meet some of Tim and Heather's family and friends and things like that. It was they had a great day. And what I will say, one thing I always look out for at weddings is sort of the reaction of the groom when the bride walks in, because I feel like everyone's looking at the bride, but the way Heather walked into it was like a garden where they had the ceremony in, just behind the Brent Civic Centre. Where Heather walked in, we could see her coming up the path already, so we'd had a good look at how she was dressed, all that sort of nice stuff, and she looked great, of course. But it meant I had a good chance then to watch Tim as he saw Heather come in for the first time. And that's always one of my favourite moments. And I've got to say, he was absolutely grinning, like he was so happy, and it was so nice to see.
So yeah, congratulations to you both.
Yes, indeed. Right, let's move into some Rugby League news, shall we?
Yeah, let's talk about something slightly less positive.
Okay, so we've talked about it for weeks, and now we can finally put the full stop, turn the page over, and wait for the next chapter of this story next year. But this year's Rugby League World Cup in England has been postponed until 2022 after the withdrawal of champions Australia and New Zealand. The two countries pulled out of the tournament citing player welfare and safety concerns related to COVID-19. The World Cup, featuring the men's, women's and wheelchair events, was set to start in Newcastle on the 23rd of October and was meant to be the most inclusive tournament that there'd ever been. It became unfeasible and irresponsible for us to carry on, said John Dutton, chief executive of the tournament. He continued, I think it will take some time for International Rugby League to recover from this. I hope we can be a beacon of light. Certainly we prioritise player voice and player choice. We know the players want to play. We took our responsibilities very seriously, and we are determined to stage the biggest and best ever Rugby League World Cup. It's a real shame that it cannot be this year, but leadership is about making tough decisions. It's about being responsible, and we've done this in the best interest of not just the tournament, but the sport of rugby league. So there you go, Alan. The bad news we've been expecting
and fearing, I suppose. Yeah. It's it feels like there's still a lot to unpack with it. I think John Dutton spoke very well on the Sunday night game. In terms of trying to articulate his kind of frustrations with the process but even so, he did it in a very professional manner, I thought.
Yeah.
Explaining the complexities of it and to be fair, highlighting the kind of the hypocrisy of it, and talking about, the issues with player release and, effectively, the decision about a player release by the NRL clubs has just put a kibosh on any option, hasn't it, really?
That's right, yeah. They took it up a step, didn't they, really? And went beyond the, Australia and New Zealand pulling out to, we don't want to let our players be released to play for other teams either.
Exactly. So it makes any kind of, Maori kind of team or an Aboriginal team or anything of that kind of nature just becomes impossible.
Exactly.
And then obviously it raises questions about your South Sea Island teams as well.
Well, even England, Scotland,
Yeah, exactly.
Ireland, Wales, they'll have all been looking to bring players over from the NRL.
So effectively what you're talking about is removing a huge potential number of the players, aren't you, of the pool?
That's it. And then without the main Australian support there, what's the knock-on effect to the sort of amateur and semi-professional players that play in the wheelchair and women's game? It means where's the capability to get those over as well? Like I said, it's a difficult but correct decision.
It's from a tournament, kind of organizer perspective, it was ultimately they became it became the only possible decision from my point of view. But I think they're absolutely right to talk about the long-standing consequences of it. Because, I don't want to talk about an NRL club. I have no interest in what's going on in the NRL anymore this year. You'll have to do a lot of convincing to get me to think otherwise. I don't want to talk about it. I couldn't give a shit about anything that happens in the NRL. Because fundamentally, their stance is undermining the world game.
Yeah, 2 weeks of their competition preparation is more important than International Rugby League in their eyes.
And I don't even think it was about that preparation because, even with the most, their season doesn't kick off till March. Everybody knows that. Players will be back in the country by December. So that kind of 2-week preparation thing was always an utter bullshit excuse. It never meant anything. It's all about the power base of Rugby League and them wanting to flex their muscles about who actually holds the power.
But they also have no concept of Rugby League's wider standing in either its important home, it's important countries where it's actually played, like England and France, or beyond into the wider world. That they have no concept of it because they're so swallowed up by their own experience. And I think, people talk about self-interest or what have you. It's mostly like they just have no capacity to look beyond the scope of their own tiny little fucking worldview in their little country not even their little country, the little corner of their country.
Yeah, it's very it's a very limited way of thinking, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And if they wish to continue to compete in their own little gene pool over there, and worry about their particular, worrying about whether competition between two states classes as anything that's even, related to International Rugby League, which is, they always seem to want to connect the two things. They've got nothing to do with each other, never have had, never will have. As far as I'm concerned, the NRL can go get knotted. I don't intend to watch a game again for the foreseeable future. I will certainly not do anything connected to an NRL club. They will not get any clicks from me. I will not read anything they've got to say. As far as I'm concerned, they've had the chips, and they can, as I say, go forth and do what they want to do. But I won't be watching it or paying any attention to it.
I think the way that they can demonstrate that this isn't just about putting themselves first and fucking everyone else off is by bringing their season forward by 2 weeks next year and coming out and saying that quickly to say we need to support the international game and we acknowledge with some of the challenges around the sporting calendar in 2022 that we need to move this tournament forward 2 weeks, and that's what we're committed to doing by moving our competition forward 2 weeks and compromising our competition from what we want to do for the benefit of the sport. It's why that's what I think they need to come out and do. And if they don't do that, then
To be honest, I've given up expecting Australia to do, or the NRL clubs to do anything for the interest of anyone beyond themselves. We've seen this this isn't a new thing. We've had this for decades. From cancelling tours because of a perceived threat of terrorism 20 years ago, to not coming last year, etc., etc. There's been a myriad of examples of their selfishness and lack of connection to the wider world. I genuinely don't think you can expect them to change because they, from their perspective, they have no reason to change. They don't necessarily obviously feel there's any great benefit to taking to kind of competing in a World Cup. So I think it would be optimistic beyond words to expect them to change what their demands, because we all know what they're like. They've been like this, as I say, for decades, and I don't expect them to change. as far as I'm concerned. So
Okay.
yeah,